Picking the wrong one of these two video tools can wipe out a week's render budget before you notice. Seedance is ByteDance's model built for measured benchmarks and clear per-second pricing. Kling is the video generator with a loyal community behind its motion realism and polished app. Most of what's out there on which one wins is outdated or just someone's guess. This settles it with 5 head-to-head tests and an honest scoreboard, so you know exactly what's proven and what's still just talk. Test 1. Output quality. If you render a batch of client-facing clips and the output looks soft or inconsistent, you're the one re-rendering on the clock. On artificial analysis, the blind vote benchmark where real users compare clips side by side and pick a winner. Seedance scores 1272 LO on the text-to-video leaderboard, which ranked it second globally. It also scores 1198 LO on the Dreamina 720p image-to-video leaderboard. Kling didn't have a comparable published score on those same boards. That's changed since. As of this August, Kling 3.0 holds 4 entries in the artificial analysis top 10. It's no longer the blank space it used to be on measured benchmarks. That's a different leaderboard slice than the numbers above, though, not a contradiction. I had to read that split twice before it made sense, and it's worth doing before you quote either number to a client. Seedance wins this one, with a stronger and more established track record across more of these boards, even though Kling closed some of the gap. Drop a comment if output quality matched what you've seen in your own projects. That's 1 for Seedance and 0 for Kling. On the leaderboards that include native audio, Seedance leads image to video at 11,999 ELO, but it actually sits third on text to video at 1223, behind Gemini OmniFlash and Minimax H3. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. Quality doesn't help you much if you're sitting there waiting on the render, and that's exactly where speed comes in. My name is Brian, and I'm in these tools 12 hours a day, so you don't have to be. Test 2. Generation speed. If you're tweaking a prompt for the 10th time before a client sees it, every extra minute of render time adds up. That's time you're not getting paid for. The honest answer here is that there's no real head-to-head speed benchmark for either model. No controlled test that times both under the same conditions on the same hardware. What's out there is directional at best. A handful of blog comparisons from earlier this year claim Seedance renders faster for the kind of back-and-forth prompt iteration this work actually involves, and that Kling's newer turbo variant is competitive on speed too. None of that is verified, which means it's a rumor floating around online, not a result you can build a workflow on. The score stays 1 for Seedance and 0 for Kling. This one's a tie. Speed doesn't matter much if the bill wipes out your budget before the project's even done, and that's where pricing takes over. Test 3. Pricing and credits. Plan a production run around one number, and the real invoice can land nowhere close, because the price you used was a guess from a blog post. Seedance's standard tier runs 9 to 10 cents a second through its main API, though third-party resellers price it anywhere from about 2 cents a second up to roughly 15, depending on the provider and tier. Kling has no verified official rate. Older community estimates for its first version floated around 2 cents a second, but nobody could confirm that number, and this year's pricing blogs for Kling 3.0 range anywhere from about 7 cents a second up to 20. Seedance wins this one too, not because it's always the cheaper option, but because its pricing is something you can actually check and plan around, while Kling's real cost right now is closer to a guessing game. That's 2 for Seedance and 0 for Kling. A good price doesn't help if your brand looks different in every single clip, and that's exactly the problem style control is supposed to solve. Stick with me, because the last 4 tests are where this decision actually flips. Test 4. Style control and consistency. Build a campaign that needs the same character or product to look right across a dozen clips, and if the tool can't hold that consistency, the whole set looks like it came from different projects entirely. Seedance version 2 accepts up to 9 reference images, 3 video clips, and 3 audio clips in a single generation. That gives you real control over how a character or scene stays consistent from one clip to the next. It also generates native multi-track audio in that same pass, so the sound comes out of the same generation as the video instead of a separate step. Kling's equivalent tools are community reported as basic by comparison, with no published multi-reference spec and no native audio feature to speak of. Seedance takes this one clearly on the documented control it actually hands you. That's 3 for Seedance and 0 for Kling. None of that matters if you can't get access to the tool in the first place, or you hit a hard limit halfway through a project, and that's the platform and limits problem. Test 5, Platform and Limits. Get halfway into a project and hit a clip length wall, or find out you can't even get API access, and now you're rebuilding your whole workflow from scratch. Seedance version 2 supports 15-second clips, and version 2.5 stretches that out to 30 seconds. It's available through several third-party APIs, including PyAPI, FAL.ai, and Atlas Cloud. Kling's maximum clip length isn't published anywhere, and getting API access to it is mostly a community-reported process, rather than something documented on its own site. Seedance wins again, because published specs beat asking around and hoping someone else already figured it out. 5 tests are done, and here's what each tool actually earned. That's 4 for Seedance and 0 for Kling, with 1 tie. Seedance won 4 of the 5 tests and tied the 5th. It earned that by being the more documented tool across the board, with measured benchmark scores, pricing you can check for yourself, and far more control over references and audio than anything Kling currently publishes. Now, Seedance won 4 of the 5 tests and tied the 5th. It earned that by being the more documented tool across the board, with measured benchmark scores, pricing you can check for yourself, and far more control over references and audio than anything Kling currently publishes. That scoreboard breaks down into a real decision once you factor in what you're using it for. If you need repeatable, production-safe output with costs that don't require guesswork and strong control over references and audio, pick Seedance. If you're doing lower stakes or more exploratory work, Kling is worth a trial. That's especially true when what you care about most is how natural the motion looks, or how polished the app feels to actually open up and use. The overall default pick is Seedance, and the reason comes down to one thing. It's the tool with benchmarks you can check and pricing you can plan around. That beats a tool where half the numbers are still someone's best guess. Kling might close that gap as it matures, but right now, verified beats promising. I almost missed this until I dug into Kling's own credit math. One thing the docs don't spell out is that Kling's cost isn't a fixed per second rate at all, it's a credit system. The credits you burn shift with resolution, and whether you flip on native audio, running 6 to 12 credits a second. Nowhere on Kling's own site is that translated into a clean dollar figure ahead of time. You often don't see the real cost until you're inside the generator running the job. If you're budgeting a real production run against Kling, that's not a small gap to guess wrong on. Get a live quote before you commit. A resolution or audio toggle you barely notice could be the difference between what you planned for and what you actually pay. Now that Seedance won this one, the real question is how it holds up against OpenAI's own model instead of another ByteDance adjacent tool. That's the Seedance versus Sora 2 comparison, and it's coming next.